Hello, everybody. We are here today with Shama. I'm a musician from Kenya. We are recording in Zoom and getting ready to log in Facebook Live broadcasting. Let me get into the Facebook Live. We are now accessing Shan's information event. Here we go, live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where in the world you are at the moment. Today is Sunday, 16th May, and Shan, our guest from Kenya, is our number 17 collaboration in this 30-minute series with Wanny Angerer in Moving Cultures, Cultural Stopovers, Wanny Angerer. Today we are going to celebrate music, not only from Kenya, but from Africa. And Jambo, Jambo Bwana, habari gani, nzuri sana. So, Jambo, Shan, how are you?
And thank you. Nice to see you after so long.
Yes, and also very, very happy to be here with you today, exchanging experiences and exchanging knowledge. Yes. Shan started his career as a musician from a very early, tender age. And we're going to hear from him about this journey. So how is that the guitar has become your companion for such a long time, Shan?
It's a very long story. So, when I was a kid, I moved to Kenya when I was 4 years old. And basically my cousin was taking piano lessons and I tagged along for one of them. And I think music kind of captured me. So I started playing piano. I was very lucky to go to a very musical primary school. So we were encouraged to do more instruments, sing in the choirs, play in orchestra. So I started playing drums, percussion, trumpet, guitar. And I think from when I was about maybe 10 years old, I started playing guitar. And eventually I got a very good teacher in Nairobi who introduced me to, of course, Congolese music, other African music, jazz, bossa nova. And from that, I got the interest, like following up with the Congolese guitar style, which I think is just incredible. And it's the sound of sub-Saharan Africa. If you go to Zimbabwe, Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Uganda, it's that sound. And so, long story short, that's how I got up.
And you said that when you were 4 years old, you moved to Kenya. From where?
So technically, I was actually born in London, but my parents and grandparents and everyone are from Kenya. So I lived there for 4 years with my mom, went to Kenya, grew up there, studied there, worked there, and then 2 years ago, I moved back to London.
Yeah, so you have an Indian background and you've been educated and raised in Africa. And with European background at the same time. So you are like a very multicultural person. Yeah?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, I think in the reality, you really are a multicultural person. And this is exactly what Moving Cultures is about. It's about promoting unity and diversity, how you can put together into a common concept, different trends and different backgrounds. Shan, you were very instrumental in your high school, putting together musical and cultural gatherings. What can you tell us about that?
So I think, as I said, our primary school was very musical. And I spent a lot of my time, both in and out of school, learning instruments, playing and so on. When I was about 10 years old, I decided that I was going to be a musician. And I never changed my mind. So even when I was in high school doing the normal studies and so on, there was a big focus on music. And unfortunately, our high school wasn't as musical. Mm-hmm. And I think because a lot of us as kids were forced to play instruments. Mm-hmm. When we got to that age where, it wasn't necessary anymore, a lot of people just dropped it. So of course, music brings people together. So some of the first big events I kind of did in high school was for Playing for Change Foundation, which you can find online. They do fantastic videos. They bring together musicians from all over the world. And so they do this thing called Playing for Change Day, where musicians all over the world organize concerts or busk or whatever. And the money they raise goes to the foundation, and the foundation builds music schools around the world. For less privileged kids. And so basically I did that, two of those concerts, I think it was 2012, 2013, getting bands together, organizing the events. After that, I did an internship in Eric Wainaina's studio. So I got more and more into music. And I think by the time I should have been doing my A levels, I was fully into the music world. That even though I was still studying, literally I would just go and sit and play music the whole day. And so I actually didn't end up finishing high school. I decided to leave a year before I graduated, and then I fully went to music.
Yeah, so you did like a sabbatic year, and then you came back to finish your high school.
No, I never finished my high school.
You didn't, so you never finished your high school. So you decided to drop out. You decided basically, to actually switch into the musical scene.
Basically, I felt like, in our schools and in our culture and in our society, you don't get asked if you're going to university, you're expected to go. And so it's literally, you finish high school, straight into uni. At that age, a lot of people also don't know what they want to do. And even though there's a kind of illusion that you're free to do what you want in life, it's kind of, accountant, doctor, lawyer, engineer, there's kind of a scope of acceptable options. If you say, you want to go and be an artist, you want to be a musician, a dancer, you're really going to have to fight to do what you want. So I think for me, it was a good experience because I didn't, as much as I could play instruments and stuff, I still didn't have the understanding of music and the experience that I wanted to have. And so from there, I started teaching, performing, meeting different people. And I think for the next 5 to 6 years, up till about now, I kind of had that experience of, performing, running bands, teaching, producing, and so on. And then now I'm in a position where I can go to uni and get the most out of it.
So do you agree with me that if you have a very intense artistic orientation, would have been better for you to finish secondary and then go into an art school and do like a bachelor in arts instead of doing just a regular high school?
If I had the choice, I would have only done my O levels and gone to a conservatoire or something full time and studied. Exactly. But I also say we're kind of expected to study. When you're done studying, you study in one block and then you start working and then you grow old. Whereas I think things are not as linear. So if you feel that you need to take time to find out exactly what you want to do, even if it's 2 years, 3 years, have different experiences. In the end, you need to really be sure what you want to do in life so you can live a happy life. Because if you're unhappy, even if you're making a lot of money, you're not going to be happy. You're going to make the world a worse place. So I think it's that thing, if whatever you feel that you want to do, and for me was a big fight. And for a lot of people like me, where you're expected to do one thing. And society, society, as much as they love musicians, they also look down at musicians. They don't really respect musicians. The same for artists, most creative people. And even though the world runs on creativity. So it's kind of that thing of if you have a passion for whatever you want to do it, and it doesn't matter what other people say. And that's kind of the philosophy I live by.
Don't you think that it's very important to really also go into the management and administrative education in order to be able to run your own musical career and your own musical business? Do you think that is an important fact to be taken into consideration?
I think definitely. If you want to be a professional, so it's not just I like to sing or I like to play guitar, so I do it. You need to transform that into a career, which means you need to know marketing, you need to know your law, especially music law, for example. You need to know how to run a business, you need to be disciplined because you will be self-employed most of the time. And you find they're very talented musicians, like some of the guys I used to work with. fantastic musicians, but they don't have that side of it. They don't think it's important, and they don't end up going very far. Whereas there are people who are not as talented, and maybe they don't even work as hard, but they have the marketing and the administration, accounting, all of that is set up. So they're basically operating like a business, and that's what you need to succeed.
Yeah, and this is at the moment what is very important to get into it. How can you become a cultural artistic entrepreneur? And that means to have the opportunity to be created into the business, but to stick to the structure, to become a solid. You were able to sustain yourself financially during your time as a manager of your own career. How old were you when you started?
So when I dropped out of school, I was 17, and it was, of course, a big fight with, especially with my dad and like most of the family. And for me, the one thing I had to prove first was that I can actually make money and survive. And so for the next 2 years after that, most of my time was spent teaching. And of course, teaching, you gain the experience, the reputation, you get paid well, you have your students. From that, with Masita, as Masita started getting more popular, that shifted into the full-time thing. And again, to be able to sustain yourself plus a full big band and orchestra of musicians from performing is I think it's quite impressive. And so for the next 4 years, we made our salaries from performing. And then now, of course, in London, being self-employed, of course, I perform, I arrange music for other people, I record, I produce, all of these different things together. And so I think over the years, as you gain more experience, and of course you learn more things, your value as a musician goes up. I think you need to be really well-rounded. So of course, the as you said, the admin, the marketing, the business is there. But also within what you're doing, you can't just do one thing. As my philosophy of musicians is that if you're a musician, you should be able to sing, play percussion, and then your instrument, and maybe even related instruments. You should be able to write songs, arrange music, play by ear. You should be able to teach, even not as a specialized thing, but you're a well-rounded musician.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we are waiting here for Shan to come back into the. Let me get myself. I lost the internet. Connecting. Let's see. We are connecting again. So now here we are. Sorry, we have some transmission issues at the moment and actually connected through my Android. Let me just check that. Yes, because we have some issues with the internet. So Shan, sorry, we were talking about the capacity to be holistic into the musical business.
Yes. As I said, the whole point I'm trying to make is that whatever you do, you should be well-rounded. And especially in today's day and age, being a musician is very difficult because as much as technology and the internet has helped us, it's also put more work in our hands. So, you need to know how to market yourself, brand yourself. You need to know, it's getting to a point where, every musician needs to know basic production, video, photography, and so on and so on. Plus, within music itself, I think if you want to say you're a musician, you should try and learn as much as you can about everything. Yeah.
You were 17 years old when you decided to go with the musical business, with creating a rumba band in Kenya. When we talk about rumba, we're talking about Congolese style in a Kenyan environment, run by Indian European descendant, yeah?
Mhm.
So that was quite a combination. And the band you created was Masita Africa. Can you let us know how did that idea came into your life?
Okay, so first a bit about rumba, African rumba music. Basically, it originated in Congo, but it kind of sprouted up around the continent at different times. And it was kind of the first popular music of Africa in the post-colonial era. And so it was kind of the one thing which reunited sub-Saharan Africa, even though after colonization, different countries, tribes, and so on, everyone still danced to the same music. And so growing up in Kenya, you hear a lot of it. People, Benga, Rumba, Zilizopendwa, Suku, Seben, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of the same lineage of music. And, you'd hear that my guitar teacher introduced me to a lot of that, which I kind of fell in love with. And then I think it was in 2015, I made a trip to UK. And I started asking people, what do you know about African music? And they told me Fela Kuti and, high life West African stuff. But no one had really heard of this kind of music which we play, which is more popular, I would say, in Africa. And so even when you come back, like in Nairobi, of course, Congo is doing very well musically, but in Nairobi, no one is really writing music in this style anymore. No one is really performing in this style anymore. You'll get a few bands which play the old covers, but that's about it. So the music was kind of dying out. And so I decided, this is like incredible music. It's very skilled. It's almost like classical music in the level of arrangement. It's something which brings people together. It's very uplifting, very sweet, very danceable music. And so the idea of Masika Africa came from trying to revive that music and then regrow it to say that if this music, of course, Congo and Kinshasa has kind of gone down one path. If we take our starting point from music of the 50s, 60s, 70s and grow it in another direction, an East African direction, a Swahili direction, where will it go? And so that's what we did. And we were together for 4 years. We performed regularly, night after night after night. We released 2 albums in that time. And yeah, basically we were doing very well. So.
So it means that you have almost one record per year.
Basically, so we did our initial debut album, and then which was recorded in 2015 and 2016, and I think we delayed the release up till 2017. Okay. And then we wanted to do a follow-up in 2018, but we were so busy performing because we would perform for 4 or 5 nights a week at our peak, and the shows would literally be 6 hours. So you get there in the afternoon, you set up, you sound check, you play till maybe 1, 2 in the morning. By the time you get home, you go to rehearsal the next day. You have no time to even sit and think about writing music or going into the studio. In 2019, which was the year when I moved to the UK, I made a trip to Cuba. And I kind of decided in my mind that, I'm going to move to London now, which I wanted to do anyway before Masika. And so I pushed the guys. I'm like, okay, we have this money and we have 3 months. We're going to write an album. We're going to rehearse the album, do a live recording of the album, and put it out. And then, that's kind of like our legacy, that at this point, we've gone up to this far, we had this style of music. And it was kind of like, yeah, let it be there. And, you never know what happens in the future. Maybe we'll play again, maybe we won't. But the album stands as almost like a testament to our legacy. So.
Yeah, so you now are a soloist. You're a solo singer and guitarist, and you're working in your new production. Yeah. Please share with us some information about that.
So basically, when I moved to London, I was still trying to, getting my feet and so on. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, the lockdown happened, and so we were stuck at home. And I used that time to basically learn music production, and brush up my skills. So I started writing music, recording it, and I put it out. And it was very, very well received. And so those were my first few tracks. And then as I started university, I learned more about marketing and branding and the other side of the business. And so I rebranded at the beginning of this year. So the look is different, the sound is slightly different. And it's basically at the moment I'm releasing singles. So I've released 3 singles, the first being Dunia Ya Haraka. And I think there's 4 or 5 more singles which are ready and they're going to be released. And it's basically like a different style of music. The guitar styles are kind of different, you know, taking modern aesthetical considerations. So things like, you know, the music from back in the day used to be 15 minutes long, 10 minutes long. And today people don't have that attention span or the time to listen to such long songs. So trying to, you know, take this music, this Kenyan rumba music, and bring it into the 21st century. And so, of course, you'll hear a style which I've started with which is evolving. And now I'm trying to work on a live album. So I'm trying to find musicians, I'm writing some music, and I want to do an EP or an album in the studio. So something, a mix of old school and new. So.
Yeah, I think it's the moment for you probably to let us know and hear a bit of your music.
Yeah, so with my music, you can find everything is on my social medias at Shama the musician. So Shama the musician. If you want to hear something now, there's a song which has been stuck in my head today, which is a Tanzanian classic called Napenda Nipate La Nafasi. So it's like a love song.
Please, so. Then we continue with the conversation.
No worries. Napenda nipate lau nafasi, nipate kusema nawe kidogo wa mama, roho ninaumia. Hakika la kufanya bado sijaliona, nimeona leo bora nikuimbe. Huenda punde roho yako ikadunda, ikaja siku ukaja niponza moyo mama, roho ninaumia. Katika kuja kwako wewe wangu mpenzi, ni kama mganga utayenitibu. Hakuna maradhi yanayenisibu, hakuna mwingine ila ni wewe mpenzi, ujeima mwenzio naumia, mwenzio nateseka, mwenzio naumia, mwenzio nateseka. Your audio has disappeared. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Shan, probably you can share with us another piece that is slightly faster so the public can see the difference between that style of rumba and other one. Yeah.
So generally, within what we call rumba music, there's a lot of variety. And in for example, if you look at like Latin music, there would even be called different genres, like, you know, bolero, son cubano, salsa, and so on. But for us, we kind of, some people call it, you know, rumba, some people call it seben. The old music tended to be slower than the new music, but there is kind of like a trend of the first half of the song would be slow, and then the second half is more the dance bit. So there's another Tanzanian song called Karubandika, and I'll give you a bit of the second part of it. So. Usinione bwege bahaba, usinione bwege bahaba, wakukubali wito wako Karubandika wakukubali wito wako Karubandika Ayote ni matatizo ya dunia baba, Hayo tu ni matatizo ya dunia baba. And so on. And of course, this is music which is played by a band. So you really need, normally we have 3 or even 4 guitarists. You have your drummer, percussionist, you have 4 singers. So if you want to hear the music in its full effect, you need to have the people around you. It's a music, I think African music and Latin music is more about community rather than being a solo artist. We're all like pieces of a puzzle and we come together to create this music. Exactly. So it's quite lonely to be sitting here by myself with a guitar. But what can we do for now?
Yeah, exactly. I think you practically said it all. It's like a big puzzle with different pieces and different sizes and colors. When you put them together, they create a beautiful story.
Yeah.
And now that you are living in the UK, you also have other projects. You're working with a local, well-known band. It's called Loquitos.
Yeah, so it's called Grupo Loquito, and it's basically a modern Congolese / Cuban fusion band. Mm-hmm. And it started off as my friend / boss's PhD project, which was researching the link between Congolese music and Cuban music. Congolese music of the 3rd and 4th generations, so the more modern stuff. And yeah, so she made a comment casually a few years back that, if you're ever in London, come play rhythm guitar for us. And I kind of, that gave me a foot in the door of the UK music industry. So I kind of took that. And from that, I've met so many fantastic musicians. I've built up my network and community between the African and Latin music scenes in London. And so including that, I do a lot of like mobile recording and collaborations and arrangement for other people. So there's a Kenyan artist called Yaba. I arranged half of his EP and performed on it as a guitarist. Mm-hmm. And I think he released that very recently. There's some other collaborations we've done with like Orchestra Lemangelepa, the legendary, rumba guys with Village Cuts, who are British producers and good friends of mine. So yeah, there's a lot of things happening here. We do we were doing regular multicultural African jam sessions at a club in East, which was very interesting. That you'll end up with maybe like a Peruvian flautist, with like a Congolese drummer, with me on guitar, with like Moroccan singer, and so it's very interesting what you get when you bring people from different cultures together, and you learn a lot from people. So London is exciting in the sense that there's so many different things you can do. And, even though we're different, it's very multicultural and there's a community around it. So.
Thank you, Chan. Thank you for promoting unity and diversity. And probably we can perform together Malaika. You can play the guitar and see if it works in this constellation.
I'm not sure it will work, but why don't you sing for us? I know there's a delay.
Yes, pleasure. Malaika. Nakupenda malaika, malaika, nakupenda malaika, nami nifanyeye kijana mwenzio, nachindwa na mali sina we, ningekuoa malaika, nachindwa na mali sina we, ningekuoa malaika. Thank you so much. 30 minutes with Shama. If you want to know more about him, his music, and the new projects he's engaging with, please check him up in Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just Shama, and continue celebrating life and unity and diversity. See you soon, Sean.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and keep shining. Bye-bye.